Alrighty. So we're live.
Maybe I should
hello. And Parse is talking. No, I'm kidding. Anyways, hi everybody. We're live for once. We're on Twitch. This is kind of weird, but we'll get used to it in a second, I guess. Welcome to the Sportculation Podcast. My name is Yusuf. Flanked, as usual, are my two co-hosts, Mr. Parse Cottrell, who just finished a race, I believe, just like an hour or two ago.
Yeah. Just in F1 league right now, racing for Ferrari team, and just put up a good performance. So can't lie about that.
There you
it's
go.
Always fun. Every Sundays, I'll leave the link in the description.
Yeah, which, by the way, you can check out our F1 video and episode on Spotify and YouTube. And, of course, the other co-host, the Austin Matthews to my William Nylander, or whichever you want to call it, Mr. Anton Wong.
Hello.
And we have guests again. We, as you know, we did our collaboration episode with Parse's other podcast, The Blackjack Pack, not too long ago, and had them on. It was a great time. We've got more guests. Introducing two acquaintances, let's call them that, of mine, that I play video games with and was in Fantasy Baseball League with. First up, we got Ari.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ari. I do music things and talk about sports sometimes and do most of them online. So if you know me, it's from when I do those things online.
Yeah, there you go. And one of my favorite people ever, the hugest New York Mets fan I've ever met in my life, Mr. Mark Sales.
What's up, everybody? I am the John Tavares hater of the podcast today.
just before we start, do you you know what, never mind, this is not, we're gonna get to this later.
What? Oh,
okay.
Go ahead.
What? No, it's fine. Wait a second, speak. That's so odd. Weird. You know what, 1 second. It looks like Twitch stuff isn't working. That's okay.
Dear.
I know. Oh, well. Oops. Well, not too late to fix that now. Anyways, sidetracking aside, this is the Sportculation Podcast. Today's episode is, well, how do I explain this? Mark, explain. There's a reason I brought him on.
I mean, we're going to be talking about football today. Me and Ari aren't huge football followers, but I've come up with a lot of ideas in my head about maybe why I'm not big into football. I kind of like to think deeply about sports in ways that other people may not. I have thoughts like this about other sports too, but something just popped up on my computer, says my internet's unstable. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
we can hear you. We're good.
Okay, that was weird then.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't even know really how to begin how we begun our conversation in the group chat the other day. But,
Say the most outrageous thing right now. We're gonna roll with it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well,
you want me to?
Yeah. Okay. So Yusuf had sent us these like screenshots of this group chat that he was having with Mark and a bunch of his other friends, and
you outed me, Yusuf.
Yeah, and one of the comments was saying that like, why don't they should rearrange the way football rosters are. So what, Mark? Why don't you explain what you meant by that?
Yeah. So there's so many things. If you want to start with the kicker thing, we can, because that's a level of it. We'll start with that. Let's start there. Let's start at the bottom. Why is a kicker different than a punter? Why can one guy not learn how to do both things?
I think if you were to compare that to baseball, it seems to me almost like catching the ball in the air versus catching the ball on the ground. I mean, I know you have infielders and outfielders who specialize a little differently, but everyone can reasonably field a ground ball and catch a fly ball. So why can't you kick the ball in two different ways?
So is it that, like, somebody said in the group chat that one of them can tackle and one of them can't?
Between
that was a load of BS. That was
no, I did. That wasn't my answer. That's what somebody responded with.
Whoever said that obviously doesn't watch kickoffs.
What do you guys think about that? Why do you think there's a kicker and a punter? Why is it two jobs?
Well, there's two different sides of the foot, and there's also the factor of working on people through their natural talents. Part of it is this: when you're punting the ball, these guys are they're very, very good at getting height as well as precision out of the situation. They're also good in high intensity situations. But the difference between a punter and a kicker is that the punter is a little bit further back, right? The kicker, in this sense, what he's good at really is about handling things under pressure. And he's also good. This is where it really comes into kicking the ball at such a profound distance, but accurate. So you got two different guys with two different things, and both of them use different sides of the ball. People who are kickers will tell you it's kind of like kicking a soccer ball, but at the same time, it's not. Because when you kick the soccer ball, you're typically kicking the center of it. When you're kicking a football, you're kicking not the bottom per se, because then you're going to pop it up, but near there. There's a very specific point you kick. Versus a punter, you're going to grab it, kind of sort it out in your hand so that it's forward, and then you want to punt it. And really good punters, what they can do is they can punt it to either side, and it goes in a corner, like spot on in the corner. Like they can tell you, yeah, that's second yard line, that's fourth yard line, that's first yard line. Like they can do things like that, and it's weird and it's crazy. And they're using the top of their foot versus the side.
Okay.
So you're saying to be really good at either being a kicker or a punter, it would be kind of hard to do both because they're so different that you have to train in a highly specialized and you have to drill these things to be really good at it. So you'd be kind of wasting your time being half-assing both things instead. You whole-ass one thing and you're really
I mean, it's a really big league, right? And these guys have to feed their families. You gotta make sure that people are employed and things like that. So yeah, but on the technical side of it, yeah, you don't want to have one guy out there who can do both and he gets injured. Because now we're in a deficit for both positions, right? You get a guy out there who specializes in kicking, and the kicking warm-ups are different. They have this little cage. It's kind of like a goal, but it's a triangle goal. And you kick it in specific spots of that cage, and then you pull yourself back. Some of the best kickers out there, like Robbie Gould, this guy can kick from 73 yards out. That is not easy. All five of us would have trouble kicking the ball 10 yards out. This guy can kick it 73 yards. And there's only a handful of guys in the NFL who can do that. A punter, man, I mean, I could probably punt the ball 40 yards. And you got guys out there who are punting the ball 60 and 70 yards in a specific spot. So it's a totally different ball game. Another part of it, I think this is the most
it's the same ball game, but it's a different skill set.
Yeah, it's just.
I think another more important thing to say about it as well is when you're talking about punting and kicking, you want to have a guy out there who understands the dynamics to a T and comes from a really good school program. So, it's not far off to say that the guy could probably do two things, but if he came from a school like Clemson, right, he may not be as skilled as somebody who considerably punts like most of the time coming out of like Syracuse or UPenn, Army. Guys where they specialize in this punting because they know their team is going to be punting a whole lot. So that type of thing.
So you've got people coming from so there's like schools will have specifically good kicker programs, and just like you have schools that have really good pitching programs, like whatever Chris Sale went to, that school produced a few other really good pitchers.
Yeah, I feel like especially when it comes to the NCAA, like certain schools will have better programs for like X specific part of the sport. Like some schools have good pitching programs. For hockey, some teams are like defensively better coaching wise than others. Football is a really weird one because I feel like some schools do have better programs for like kickers and punters, but then for everything else, it's like, if that school is good for say like its special teams or something, right? that you have to rely on the coaching staff for. It's not really as much the players as it is what they're being like the information and like knowledge they're being given to enact all those things. So all it would take is for that coaching staff to leave and just go to another school, and then there you go. But the thing is, like, regardless, it's still specified. You know, being a kicker versus being a punter is still like a specified thing. Like, I can't remember who it was, but in our fantasy baseball chat, someone mentioned try getting like instead of having just someone that's a kicker and someone that's a punter, just get someone that does both, or try having someone like a soccer player try to do both. And I remember, I think at one point we got into an argument there where it's like a completely different like science, kicking a soccer ball versus
completely
punting.
different ball.
That too, it's also a completely different ball.
The different football.
Yeah.
The other football.
Yeah. But when it comes to the specialized parts of football, like I know it doesn't make sense sometimes, but because certain roles like the kicker and punter are so limited, like you only have what is it, like one or two per team, Parse?
I wouldn't be accurate to say that. I think there might be 3 different kickers.
Okay.
But one is just better at something than the other, and one specializes more in the other. I think it's
right.
I could check again, probably.
Okay.
Maybe there's 4, but
yeah,
I'm not sure right now.
Okay. But regardless of the fact is that they are specialized roles and they're limited, so that if in the event that they get hurt, you're kind of stuck. But if you have someone that's a punter, you only have them punting. They're not going to be getting hit by anyone. A kicker might be, because that's during an actual scrim. I'm thinking rugby rules here, but yeah. Carrying on, Mark. Any more you have to talk about? Like the special teams argument?
We went far into it as like, why doesn't the wide receiver turn around and play cornerback on defense? Why isn't the offensive line turn around and play defensive line? And I'm talking like, obviously it's been this way for so long. Everybody's so used to it.
That's a different conversation.
Yeah, it's a whole different conversation.
I will take that one over for you, because I want to give you a list of names for some players who have tried it and have done it and were successful. Like there were a couple of them who've actually done this quite well.
Player on the Jets did it, I think, about 10 years ago. I remember.
But the most accurate story I can give you is that playing defense, playing offense have totally different tolls on your body. Playing defense, it is tiring. It's more tiring than you would be playing basketball, I guarantee you. Because what happens is you are timing the count of the quarterback, who at any time could offside you or trick you. Then you got guys who are basically 100-meter dashers that you're trying to chase down and get in front of if you're a corner. If you're a linebacker, you are running up the field to go get somebody, running back to be on scrimmage, only to set up and try to do the same thing again, or play in the slot and sit, which is when you're playing in the slot, you sit, you're covering a lane, and you're spying on the QB to see if he's going to run. So there's different aspects of defense. Also, learning every single scheme. So it's on the offensive side, it's hard enough, and any offensive NFL player will tell you, it's hard enough learning all the plays for offense. Okay, Mahomes and them, they have like plenty. So imagine playing with Mahomes where you have to learn not just the offensive plays, but where you have to be on defense when you're playing zone, cover 2, cover 3, nickel, dime, quarter, blitz. Bro, my head's exploding. And then you gotta be athletically inclined to do those things. For example, your team is down 7. They want you out there playing wide receiver. You want a slant route. You may catch the ball. You get hit pretty bad. Now you gotta sit out 2-3 plays. You come back out. Next thing you know, he throws an interception when you're supposed to come out. Now you have to go play defense, and you're already winded, tired. And now you guys are down 10, where you guys need a champion. You guys need a touchdown, and obviously an onside kick because you got to get the ball back. Like, you're just winded playing both sides of the ball. It's easy for a high school team to do it because most likely they don't have enough personnel. When you get to the college and, of course, the NFL level, they got specific guys for specific things because they're just really good at it. Some guys are just really good at reading the ball and not good at catching.
Yeah. So we were comparing it. Is my mic on? Yeah, it's on. We were comparing it to in baseball. So let's say in baseball, if the rules started 100 years ago and they let you put a whole different squad of 9 guys out there to play defense, and the offense is a whole different 9 guys, every team would do it. If it was allowed, every team would do it. Every team would put out. If you had Francisco Lindor, well, that's a terrible example.
Francisco Lindor count number 1.
Terrible example. If you had, who's really good at hitting, but not
JD Martinez.
Yeah, JD Martinez.
JD Martinez, and he's hitting, and you didn't have to put him in the field, and you also had on your team Rafael Devers. I don't know if he's good at third base, but if you didn't have to put him out at third base also, you wouldn't do it. If you were allowed to put out a whole different squad of 9 guys out there,
isn't this why the NL is so popular? Because not only does a pitcher have to hit, but he also has to pitch.
Yeah.
They're slowly phasing that out.
Yeah, they're going to be phasing that out soon. Not this season, next season, right?
Yeah.
I think it's disappointing, but it's good for the game overall.
Yeah.
But I think kind of what Mark's getting at here is like, let's say for just for purpose of argument, if the football roster was cut in half and everybody, just based on how many people you were allowed to have on your team, had to play both sides, how big of an effect would that have on the enjoyability of the game, both as a player and as a fan? If everybody had to be a little less good at each thing specifically, but had to be good at both things at the same time, would it be less fun to watch?
I think this is when the argument takes a turn, because the game would be a lot more fun, but it would be a lot more slow paced. Like 100%.
Yeah, so it's like with a baseball, you got to make some sacrifices. If you need that guy's bat in the lineup and you're an NL team, you got to stick him somewhere. The Mets went through that with Daniel Murphy for 6-7 years. He was such a good hitter. We had no idea where to put him. He was playing left field, first base, third base, second base, and he was just struggled out there, man. But you needed him hitting third.
Or on the opposite,
it's kind of interesting.
You have a guy like Mario Mendoza who hit 200 for his career, except he was an amazing shortstop. So they're like, and that's where they kind of set this, like, if you're a 200 hitter, but you're a good fielder, we're still going to play you. But below that, that's where it gets hairy.
Or even we can use a local reference here of our good Blue Jay, Mr. Vlad Guerrero Jr. Great hitter, but
he just lost 40 pounds.
He did. He just lost a ton of weight.
Good for him.
Yeah, really good for him. Maybe now they'll just throw him on third base and just keep him there forever. But that was an argument people were having with Vladdy, was let him play first or have him play third base, and then the argument's still going on and on and on and on. And if they pick up LeMahieu, I don't even know what the hell's going to happen anymore.
Good problem to have.
Yeah, it'd be a great problem to have. But thinking about that, in the sense that, well, if you had 9 people to play defense and then 9 people to just hit, at that point, I'm not saying, Vlad, you're playing third or first. I'm like, Vlad, you're on the hitting roster. Right. You know, like it's definitely a good problem to have, but it'll become a bit of an issue later. Carry on, Mark.
That draws into like the entertainment. We were talking about like the entertainment part of it. And I was trying to figure out why I'm less entertained by the marketing of football and all that. When you market basketball, you can market it's LeBron versus Steph Curry. Mm-hmm. And they're actually going up against each other. They got to guard each other and all that. When it's Tom Brady versus Aaron Rodgers, it's cool, but they're playing a whole different set of 11 guys. So Aaron Rodgers is doing his thing, and then he gets off the field, and Tom Brady comes on, and he's playing a whole different crew of guys than even just played with Rodgers. You know, none of those 11 Packers were just on the field with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
It's a whole different squad. So that takes away from my entertainment, I think, a little bit. Maybe obviously I'm in the minority on that, but that's part of it, I think. And that's what made me think of, would it be more entertaining if a wide receiver had to turn around and then play cornerback for the rest of the game? Now, there's I totally get what you're saying. Like, you got to learn the plays. There's a whole fatigue issue there. So maybe, it shouldn't be that. That's the word I'm looking for. But maybe there's a way to do it. It's obviously never going to happen because football is football and it's been around forever. Maybe the XFL will do something crazy. But, anyway, if anybody has any thoughts on that.
I mean, now that The Rock owns the XFL, you never know.
Well, I'll defend football and say this. When they do say these things, like, it's Aaron Rodgers versus Tom Brady, it's essentially who's better at their job. And the same thing you would actually argue with when you talk about LeBron James versus Steph Curry. Who's better at their job? Who's better at leading their team to victory? Who's better at showing up when it really, really matters? And that's kind of the argument that the NFL sells. I think you're the first person to ever say that the NFL doesn't sell you right, because damn, do they do good? Do they do good in the money aspect? I mean, damn.
Well, it's not as much about the money. It's like sell it as a thing that Mark wants to buy, for example.
Yeah.
He buy with his own attention. And
I mean, I'm a baseball fan. Yeah, I'm not, baseball is the worst marketed sport there is.
Yeah,
so
we've talked about that on the show before.
I would actually argue that Tom Brady versus Aaron Rodgers is it's more exciting as a head-to-head than necessarily a pitcher's duel, because at least in the example of Tom Brady versus Aaron Rodgers, each of them, they go out there and they call the plays. If you've got Garrett Cole versus Clayton Kershaw, that's great, but they're only throwing it. I mean, not to diminish the role of the pitcher, but it's like they throw the ball. They're not running everything that happens on the field. Everyone's a little more autonomous. There's no one person calling the game, and it's not a player.
Yeah, and that pitcher might only be throwing like half the game, maybe even less, depending on how the game's going. Where
if you're Blake Snell, less than 7 innings.
Oh God.
Hey,
like
no Blake Snell said.
QBs, like they're there pretty much the whole game unless something happens.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's also the endurance of it. And that same thing kind of comes in with basketball. I mean, you could say really any sport involves more physical endurance than baseball does, just because of the, how much running there is basically, or skating.
Yeah.
But hey, they play every day. So
They do
true.
play more often. They do play more often.
Quality versus quantity kind of thing.
You gotta play 3 games in a row and then get right on a plane after that third
That's
game.
true. And football, they play
once a week.
Also, they don't do double headers for any sport.
Well, I think it's just like because of
Double headers are
tackling.
wild.
There's a lot more different physical hardships that you have to face.
Like tackling, the amount of traveling, like at least a couple days to rest and recoup. But the way whenever
rugby players do it.
Oh yeah, it just whenever I think of like sports duels though, right? Yeah, of course, like when it comes to marketing, they're gonna hype up like LeBron versus Steph. They're gonna hype up like Cole Kershaw, Verlander Kershaw, the Houston Astros entire cheating lineup versus anyone.
Joe Kelly.
Joe Kelly.
Bunch of cheaters.
Justice for Joe Kelly. But like I like to think of hockey whenever I think of like marketing a duel, because no one really markets hockey duels that much unless they're like the really big names. So like if it's Washington and Pittsburgh, you're gonna market Ovechkin versus Crosby, even though they play different positions, but they're both on their starting offensive lineups. Ovechkin's a winger and Crosby's center. If you talk about Edmonton and Toronto, our 2 resident teams, you're talking about Matthews and McDavid.
I think
but at least they get to hit each other.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's much different.
I
think it's different with hockey because it is like hockey.
It's actually like head to head.
Hockey is a team sport, though.
Yeah.
Like it's you can't have a guy on the ice for more than like a minute or 2 minutes and before they switch him off, right?
Right.
Well,
like, so that's why I think of goaltender duels though.
Sure, yeah, you can do goaltender.
Yeah, like specifically, I was going to think of goaltender, but who gives a shit about goaltenders?
I mean, like they're
as
important.
far as marketing goes, they are important.
Like,
someone's going to keep your pucks out.
Is someone going to provide a shutout? I don't know.
Yeah, you don't know
which one's going to be the shutout.
Yeah, and if there's 2 really good goalies going up against each other, it makes it that much more interesting. So,
and if
that
it's
would be sort of like marketing a catcher
soccer
duel.
Football, then it's like you can actually have full out shutouts, like both goaltenders shutouts, 0-0 ties.
Ari, what were you just saying about catchers?
I would like to see ESPN. I would like to see ESPN get up there and it's like, all right, it's Sunday Night Baseball. It's Posey versus Molina.
Posey versus Sanchez.
It's serviceable backup Tomas Nido against Michael Perez.
See, that's with catcher duels. I think that's probably the most boring duel you could possibly do. Like the lowest tier you could probably find in catcher duels.
Well, imagine it's called bowling. Yes, it is. But like you got to imagine.
You might as well have the mascots fight.
Oh, mascot duels.
Let's go.
Gritty versus Philly Fanatic.
Gritty.
Yo, Gritty all the way.
All the way. Only Gritty.
You can tell Gritty, like, he's seen some things,
He is something.
Oh, he's been through a lot. Nobody looks like that if they haven't been around the block.
His face used to be, like, pinky flesh-colored.
Yep.
And then something happened.
I don't know, just unrelated, since Ari mentioned Gritty, when the Stanley Cup playoffs were going on a few months ago, because all the Eastern stuff was happening here in Toronto, The Philadelphia Flyers rented a billboard that overlooks one of the main highways that leads to the arena, and it just says, no matter where you are, I'll be watching you. Go Flyers. And it's just gritty looking over the highway.
Oh, that's horrifying.
How did the Flyers do in the playoffs?
I don't know. Ask the Islanders. Mark, how'd the Islanders do in the playoffs?
I'm cool with how they did.
Okay, that's fine.
So would you rather have Gritty watching over you from the heavens or Max Scherzer? Because at in DC, you've got that billboard over the right field fence.
Oh, that's right. God, I'd probably take.
Oh
Gritty.
yeah, I love that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's
terrifying.
amazing. It's like the Gatsby thing. You got the eyes just watching over the whole scene.
Yeah. We got Lauren and Alex on the chat right now.
Hold on. Did we have a point to this episode?
Yeah, it was supposed to be
Football.
about football and rosters.
Football. Let's get
But
back.
we-
Rosters
honestly,
are
this is a
perfectly
banter
fine.
episode. I like this.
No, okay. Let's get back on.
Let's get back on
Football.
track as we carry on.
So-
Yeah.
I'm thinking if you were to impose like to an NFL roster, we're cutting it down by 10 guys. You have to remove 10 guys from your roster. Do you think they would consolidate the kicker positions? Do you think that would be a priority? What positions would they
Good way to
consolidate
phrase it.
first to
Very good way to phrase it.
to fill that space?
Get rid of the QB and just rush every time.
Only rush.
Damn, that's a really good question. But I think, the first thing you'd probably do is actually, that's actually an easier question because you get rid of a lot of the third string guys.
Okay, so say starting roster. If you have all the 11 guys on either side, so 22 total. If they say you can only have 15 now, what positions would they merge?
Just for argument's sake, yeah. I mean, you probably take one away from each position. You'd probably still keep your kickers and special teams intact just because you never know. Those guys could move around more or less. That's why they're called special teams. But if you have to deal with one less receiver, one less linebacker, it's gonna hurt, but not too much. I mean, we can look at a lot of rosters out there like Carolina, who's dealing with a bunch of injuries in the linebacker position. They still play okay defense. Steelers, they have a couple guys under COVID. The running back position, they still play well. San Fran, they don't even have a quarterback, and yet their backup string quarterback is able to get them one win out of 3 games. So, it's not terribly bad. But yeah, you change the dynamic huge because now there's like a good 15 people who are not getting paid. Families not getting fed, and then on the other half of it, now if somebody does get injured, that there's a pretty big hole to fill, which would probably make free agency pretty crazy.
Oh yeah, if you were to do it in the middle, like the economic impact would be that's not completely out of the question, but like if you were to be doing this from the beginning, reconstructing a football roster, and you could only have you could still have 11 guys on the field at a time, but only like 15 starting players, then would you consolidate the the cornerback and the wide receiver, for example?
Yeah, I mean, you could even consolidate the kicker as well. It just really depends on what your strengths of a team are at the end of the day. For example, the Saints are really potent offense, right? They may sacrifice a little more on the defensive side if they can make it for the firepower. The Bears definitely, they would sack off both their quarterbacks and sell them for pennies on the dollar if it meant just getting a couple more linebackers in. So it just really depends.
So it would be all about, you'd have some teams that would go, all right, we have one kicker and one punter, and we consolidate,
definitely.
These other
And just run it like that and say, you know what, push come to shove. If we do have to kick the ball, we can use one of our wide receivers to do it. Just get it out there. Whatever happens. And, we'll just pick up the pieces on defense.
So it's all highly dependent on individual team strategy about what positions you'd consider more or less important, which ones could be serviceably done by someone who usually plays the other side of the ball.
Well, yeah, most of the time. I mean, everything is sports-wise, right? You're a basketball team, right? You're playing LeBron. What do you think you're going to be doing? Damn right, we're shooting threes, and we can't stop him. He's going to have 30. His team is probably going to have 30. Try to stop everybody else.
Exactly. So, one thing mentioned to us in the Twitch chat, because that's a thing now. Hello, from our resident friend Alex. He says consolidate running backs to 2, kicker to 1, quarterbacks to 2, and then safeties and cornerbacks to 6. So safety and cornerback would be in their own consolidated category. Thoughts, Parse, Ari? Any?
Parse, you
I
want to take this one?
mean,
I think that's very good, Alex. Good job.
Thanks, Mark.
you left
Parse.
out the guard, you left out the center, you left out the left tackle, the right tackle, you left out a lot of bits and pieces that protect the quarterback or attack the quarterback, just to make it simple. And
I think Alex is trying to say those don't matter.
those guys don't matter.
I don't agree with him, but I think that's what Alex is saying.
Let me just break it down. We've all
I think we should
played
cancel
football
Alex.
out in the yard, all friends, 9-on-9, 8-on-8, set hunt. You and your friend right there playing quarterback. Somebody's just standing there counting out 5 scrimmages, and then they're going to attack you. You got to throw the ball within that. But think about the amount of time you could save and make an actual correct throw if there was 3 people guarding you instead of just 1.
Well, I feel like this is a great
Alex, I think you got to think about that.
I feel like this is a great conversation to have following the recent embarrassment of the Denver Broncos, where they didn't have a single starting quarterback in their lineup that was healthy.
Oh, yes.
All of them had gotten COVID or something,
Yes,
so they had to get.
Shout out to that guy though. He's
I can't remember his name, but
He didn't do that. He didn't do that.
He tried.
Hinton. Kendall Hinton.
That's it. But getting a training team wide receiver whose day job is sales because he doesn't make that much money from obviously being on the practice squad. But to step up and have him play quarterback role, especially starting quarterback role, like that's a big jump, especially for a
David Ayers moment.
No, it was not a David Ayers Carolina Hurricanes moment.
I was going to bring that up. Do you guys think that in baseball, if both of your catchers get hurt, you should be allowed to throw a bullpen catcher in?
No, I don't think so because they're not on the roster. I think it's the same thing as like if all your pitchers get COVID, are you allowed to put the pitching coach into pitch? No, you go to a position player pitching. Right?
A lot of dudes getting COVID.
Position player pitching.
No, well, I think it's kind of the wide receiver playing quarterback. Position player pitching.
If
kind of the same concept.
It's happened before where like you run out of pitchers.
Yeah.
And it's like a 15, 17, 18 inning game. That happened with the Jays on Canada Day.
A couple
years back.
Yeah.
And they ran out of pitchers, so they just started throwing in other guys.
You also get into games where it's like, we're not going to win this, so I don't know why we should waste any of our arms. Let's just, let's let
I believe
what is it,
Austin,
that's when the
Romine get out there.
Yeah, but that's
if
when
you
the
don't
cut
really
for Twitter
win the
count as a
game,
field day.
Just throw it. Just throw it.
Yeah, just throw it.
Manfred is trying to
Stevie
cut back
Wilkerson
on that
with that
too.
59-mile-an-hour curve.
Yep.
Yeah.
Manfred's trying to cut down on what you said?
He said part of the new rules that was supposed to happen this year, but I think didn't because of the COVID season, was each team was going to have to designate one position player that would pitch in those situations, which I think is kind of sucks.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
I don't think it helps anything. How
much are you really going to do that? It's like, what are you going to do after that guy pitches, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think anybody's like in a 19-run game, I'd rather watch my third baseman pitch than the last reliever. It's more entertaining. I don't know.
Yeah. No. Or just find anyone in your dugout and be like, you go throw a ball.
Yeah, get the bat boy to do it.
Yeah, get someone. Maybe we're not.
What's the Dodgers bat boy's name that they had play left field in the scrimmage games?
Wait, what? I didn't know about this.
When they had COVID spring training, the summer camp, and they would like inter squad play each other, they had their bat boy playing left field, and he was like making plays and stuff. It was fun.
Oh, Chico.
I forgot his name.
Oh yeah,
Chico Herrera.
Yeah, Chico.
Yeah.
All right, shout out to you, Chico Herrera. But So normally I'll ask like random questions, but this has been a good episode so far because there's been a lot of conversation from our guests. Not as much as Anton. Anton's been very watching.
Yeah, I'm not as like knowledgeable. Very little.
Anton,
I have very little knowledge on football.
What do you think
Anton's
of John Tavares?
What do I think of John Tavares?
Overpaid.
Yeah, he got a lot of money. He got a bag.
He did get a bag.
But I don't know.
Do you think that if he
didn't get those pajamas, do you think if he didn't get those pajamas for Christmas as a kid, that he'd still be with the Islanders?
I don't know. It doesn't help that he's from here, so we slander the Leafs too much on this show.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. But okay,
That's
so
like I don't know many other things about hockey.
Just John Tavares. I have a question for the lot of us here, since we're talking about, with the possibility of like consolidating rosters and whatnot. With a league like the NFL, where salaries are like unprecedented and ridiculously high for the sake of human beings, where guys like Mahomes are getting $40 million plus, and someone's getting paid like way too much money. Do you think that if there was an idea to potentially consolidate rosters, like for a football team, owners would go for it because it would save them a ton of money, or would they end up paying those players more?
Well, they're not paying their.
Let's take this one at a time, Anton.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, Anton.
They're not paying their day staff for the people who sweep the stands. They're not paying concession staff. That's for sure.
That's true. That's true. Any other thoughts regarding that, Parse?
In the eyes of Jerry Jones, it's 100% facts. He would take it, and he started paying everybody like dollars. He pays quarterback $1. He pays quarterback $5. Wide receiver $3, especially with the way they're playing this year. It's just Jerry. I just hate you, Jerry Jones. I do. I don't like you.
Yeah, I think most ownership would kind of jump at the idea of, we have fewer people to pay. All right, that's more money that we can use
100%.
to rent out Fenway Park and do private COVID testing.
Oh yeah, that's right. But then wouldn't the possibility of it being like say you had a pitching rotation, right? And say you reduce the amount of people on your pitching rotation to like two or three, would you have to then pay those two guys more money because they're the only two on your rotation?
On that one.
Yeah, true. Because that's what I think about quarterbacks.
He has now done that with two different teams. but
if you think about it with the quarterbacks,
would you have to pay them more?
Like, yeah. Like say,
I feel like
no, okay. So say like you have, because every team has normally two quarterbacks, or three, whatever it is. They'll have one starter and then two reserves, depending on the team. So if you consolidated that just down to two, you have one starter and you have the reserve. Would that potentially leave the idea of having to pay that starter more money because he's your only starter, and then you just have to pay your reserve a little more than usual?
I don't know.
It's a weird question to ask. We have a question in the chat. I feel like if something like that happens, people behind the scenes should be earning more. So I'm assuming like coaching staff and whatnot, which I think would make more sense. But then again, like
in a perfect world, they would all get paid more.
Exactly,
closer because they're so instrumental to providing the experience of going to the game and stuff. I mean, come on.
So I feel like that's the thing.
It's like paying production stuff.
Ari, you said you had.
Ari, you have a question before we wrap up?
Yeah. So just to take consolidating rosters to the illogical extreme, let's say instead of per sport, you consolidate rosters, offense and defense. What if every city is only allowed to have 75 professional athletes across all four leagues? What inter-sport positions would you consolidate? Would you take
Wait, does that include the entire city of New York, where it's like?
Yeah, so I was going to comment on that.
Okay,
I was ready to jump on that.
So let's take a city like Boston, which has one team per sport. So across sports, what positions would you consolidate?
The Red Sox would just use two outfielders. It would be Jackie Bradley Jr. and Verdugo playing left center and right center, and you would have Bogarts just playing on the left side of the infield.
Yep.
And then you use the extra people to put 7 guys on the ice for the Bruins.
And then it would be for football, it would be run wrestling with a ball. Just two guys.
Just two guys.
Just two guys.
One-on-one football.
And it's Brady and
one lane.
It's just your quarterback and your wide receiver.
Very, very good for New York if that was ever to happen, because you don't have to pay a lot of those.
We would just downsize the Knicks.
Yeah, the Knicks would just go base shit.
Knicks are a loss leader. We take the L on all those and put all the players on the other.
And the Jets. And the Jets. I forgot about the Jets.
Yeah,
the Jets. The Knicks. You can just cut those. Part of Brooklyn Nets, part of them. Maybe just keep the 8, maybe 7 guys.
The Nets would be Kyrie, KD, and Karis LeVert, and they would be fine. They'd still win the championship.
We could really cut a lot of New York out. I think this hurts a lot of small market teams like Tampa Bay. Oh,
absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Dead. and Kansas City, another city. Wow, like, could you see this Kansas City Royals?
Oh my God.
4 people on the field.
Hey, well, it's a
Did you
good thing
guys-
for Sacramento. They still got a whole thing.
Yeah,
That's true. They do.
Yeah,
They got a
Sacramento
whole team.
You know,
Yeah.
the NBA roster would play the the baseball, and they'd also
Yeah.
just be out there.
This
Yeah.
is such a
Every
weird,
sport,
stupid
actually.
question. I love it.
Oh, this is great. This is the
Yeah.
kind of chaos
The
I want on the
Arizona
show.
Seattle
It's like it
would
should never
be a
happen.
little upset
Yeah.
about it because who do you really cut out in Seattle? Do you cut the Mariners or do you cut the Seahawks? I don't know.
Well,
Seahawks
Seattle,
really-
you have Russell Wilson play second base for the Mariners.
That's true
Yeah.
because Russell Wilson does play baseball. So
Have Russell Wilson
Exactly.
pitch.
You get Kyler Murray on the D-backs.
yeah. Oh wait,
This would allow Kyler Murray to play on the A's as well. Yeah. Or yeah, you get him on the D-backs.
wait. Is the Kansas
Well,
City
you would
Chiefs
get-
the same city as the Kansas City Royals? Is that the same Kansas City, or is that a different Kansas City? Because there's like
The-
3
No,
Kansas
they're
cities.
There's-
both Missouri.
They're
Yeah,
both
the Kansas City and
It's sporting.
Kansas is
It's sporting
surprisingly
Kansas City
irrelevant.
that is Kansas
Okay.
City, Kansas.
Because then you could have
Yeah.
Mahomes play for the Royals.
Yeah, I mean,
Have him
didn't
play
he play baseball in college?
You know he got drafted by the Tigers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, we got fucked.
Yeah, that's a
That was on
darn
the Mets.
shame.
Yeah, and then again, Tim Tebow, you have that too. But yeah, this has been fun. This has been very chaotic. I like this. Moral of the story: please, like rosters should only stay a certain way. But to go off, last thing before we do our final thoughts and wrap up here is if you think of this whole idea that Ari brought up of consolidating between all the major league teams. You think the owners would be having like a fist fight with each other, figuring out like I want to spend this much money on it? Like I would want to see Jerry Jones fist fight every single like Texas. I want Jerry Jones to fight Mark Cuban.
Oh my God.
I want Jerry Jones to fight Mark Cuban.
Forget Paul Mayweather, Jones Cuban in the
Yeah,
Yeah.
Jones Cuban right now.
Oh yeah,
Do it.
I'd pay good money.
That's like
Oh,
Trump
yeah.
versus Vince McMahon. They've done that,
Yeah,
right?
they've done that.
It's-
Yeah. So why
Oh,
not?
I would love to see old billionaires fist fighting each other. That would be so funny.
Why not? Media entertainment, right? We need entertainment in this world.
Steve
but-
Cohen versus James Dolan.
Yes. So this is where we do our final thoughts for the show. And my final thoughts are, man, rosters are weird in football. That's really it. Just rosters
The
are.
Mets have more quarterbacks than the Broncos.
That's a really sad fact. I'm gonna take that as Mark's final thoughts. Anton, final thoughts?
Like I said, I don't know that much about football.
At least
But,
from the conversation.
Yeah, I know that it's very strange how football, like very specific football positions are. So I guess like if you're paid like $1 million a year, you know, that's hopefully you'll be useful. But you know, I do see that they do get injured quite a bit, quite frequently. So I
Yeah.
guess I do see why they have such specified positions and such large rosters. So
Yeah. Ari, final thoughts? Just short wrap up.
I think when you're talking about all this crazy roster moving around, it's important to, as Parse was saying, the economic impacts all this, like it would make it completely, just completely impossible to do. So it's all stuff you have to think about in a vacuum. You know, it works fun on paper. It's something you could maybe do. Like I know people have tried out 4-sport fantasy leagues. So you have something like that where you draft people from all 4 leagues and you trade them for each other. That's the kind of fun thing you could get into with consolidating all 4 sports into one roster. But definitely having them play each other would get a little hairy.
Yeah. All right. And finally, Parse, final thoughts.
I gotta figure out a way to market NFL games to Mark. This is really
yeah, you gotta tell NFL to hire you just for Mark.
Yeah.
Yeah, man,
We've
we gotta
got a
find-
demographic
like
that we need
Mark,
to
just-
corner.
Just in general, we got to make sure we market these NFL games. You know, if it's not for the
Until-
game, at least the cheerleaders got to make this guy come. You know, like come on.
Until Ramon Laureano plays football, I will be watching baseball.
Or Francisco Lindor.
Or Francisco Lindor.
That's what XFL is there for. You know that
Yep.
craziness. Anyway,
Hey, maybe Randy
RIP the
Rosarena's gonna.
XFL.
Maybe no, The Rock bought it, so it's coming back eventually.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Maybe-
DM him right after
The
this
Rock
podcast.
has to
all my
fight Mark
ideas.
Cuban now.
Yo, what if
Yeah,
we get
and
Randy?
then I'll watch.
Rosarena?
Wait, no, The Rock versus Manfred? I mean, come on.
Oh, that would be great. But yeah, all these chaotic things aside, this has been fun. Thank you, Mark and Ari, for coming on the show. Thank you to my forgetful, dumb brain for not mentioning to Anton and Parse that we were going to have guests, but here we are. Surprise! Anyways, this has been the Sportculation Podcast. As usual, we are, we're on YouTube, we're on Spotify, Anchor, Breaker, Google Radio. I've got links everywhere. You'll see them. And until then, I am Yusuf.
I am Parse.
I'm Anton.
Mark.
Ari.
There you go. Close enough. I am also Parse and Mark, and you get the idea. Anyways, we'll see you soon. Bye.